Hi everyone, it's Mark here. I'm the founder of the Arts and Culture Network. We're at 155,000 now, I think, across our 8 LinkedIn groups. We're an independent, growing global community of like-minded arts practitioners, professionals, supporters, advisors, etc. And of course, I don't get to meet everybody, but when I do, it's a pleasure. And I've got John Blackburn with me today. John is one of our full members and is a business coach in the entertainment sector. And we are also both drummers, although I'm probably a percussionist more than a drummer, but we'll see. John, thank you so much for joining me for this today.
It's a total pleasure, Mark. Thank you. And is it 155,001 now that I've figured out how to join all those groups?
Yes, it probably is. And oh, well, I can see the drums on your cup.
And it's not the only place that they are in this flat either, Mark. So yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I can imagine. I can imagine. That's great. Excellent. So tell us a little bit about you and the work that you do. I know you're in Hendon in North London, and you work as a business coach for organizations in the entertainment industry and individuals based on what we've heard from you from our events. So all yours.
Oh, thanks, Mark. Well, yeah, that's a pretty good summary of the work that I do. I was a I am, in fact, still a drummer and a musical director. I play in sort of theatre one-nighter touring shows. That's most of the work that I do on that side. But my real creative energy in the last few years has been around this coaching stuff. And basically, the way I'm currently describing it to people is whatever your goals are, whether they're artistic or commercial or for the life that you want around those things, at some stage, you're going to need to learn how to push a few of your own new buttons. And for some people, you might actually have to create a few buttons for you to press yourself that you don't have yet. And that's where I think of coaching and the other bit of that work that I do, which is neuro-linguistic programming. That's where I see that coming in. And the way I, usually explain it to people is thinking about building two types of assets, external assets and internal assets. And so an external asset might be growing an audience. And in order to do that, if you haven't done it already, you may need to build some internal assets to support being able to grow an audience. It might be some skills in copywriting or social media or networking. It might be other kinds of internal resources or assets like confidence and resilience and all of these things that we don't talk about in the sort of business conversations very, very often, but especially if you're working as a sort of solopreneur, it's really essential. And having or not having those skills, those states available makes a huge difference. So that's the bulk of the core of the work that I do.
That's great. And what kind of organizations or people do you find yourself working with? What does their profile look like?
Yeah, so coming from a sort of the world of live music performance and theatre and that kind of thing, I had done a lot of work running sort of stress management workshops for teachers, and because I recognized how important education was and supporting people in education. And then as I did that work with people, um, I just had this calling back to supporting the live entertainment world. So I do work with some performers and some creatives, people who primarily see them in that way. But most of my work is targeted towards people that I would refer to as producers. And I think of a producer as someone who has taken on more responsibility than just their own performance. So it might be that they're putting on their own putting on their own shows or running a band of some kind or running a show. But yeah, it's people that don't just take bookings for their own performance. It's people that have perhaps taken on a slightly wider amount of responsibility. Set up an organization for themselves, something like that. That's how I think of a producer.
Great. Excellent. Well, wherever this appears, there'll be lots of links to you and the work and case studies and the like. So thank you for that. And we're now going to have some fun. This is good. This has always been good fun, pulling out anecdotes and the like. I'm going to create your fantasy cultural year from the answers to 10 easy questions. There are no wrong answers. I have a time machine, a magic wand, and I have a Star Trek transporter, okay, at our disposal. Now, I need to place you somewhere in the world to start this. So I'd like you to tell me if you have a favorite building.
Favorite building? Oh, wow. Oh, I'm going to say the South Bank Centre.
Nice. 1952, I think, Festival of Britain.
Oh, right. There you go.
That was where, yeah. Interestingly, I have some spiky views on audience development, by the way, but somebody did a study at the Royal Festival Hall on the South Bank to try and find out how much the average age of a classical music concert goer had changed since 1952. It hasn't.
Yes, that's what I would expect you would say. Yeah.
And it's 39.
That isn't what I was expecting you were going to say. Wow.
Yeah, which there's good news there and bad news. The good news is that it's younger than we thought. The bad news is it hasn't gotten any younger. So and sort of my views around that I met the president of the Philadelphia Orchestra once, and he said, we've given up on people between the ages of 18 and 30. We'll get them later, he said. He said, we have a finite marketing budget and we have to spend it where it's going to have the biggest impact. And so I got that, I understood that. And he also suggested that classical music, along with blue cheese, fine wine, and Shakespeare, it's enjoyed in your 30s and 40s much more than in your teens and 20s. And I think he's probably right, but interesting. Yeah. So yes, you see, we've had a conversational detour already. Right, I'm going to put you on the terrace at the South Bank Centre in front of the foyer of the Royal Festival Hall at 6 p.m. on a Friday evening in June.
Wow, okay.
What would I find next to you as a drink?
Oh, it would be a sparkling water, probably with some lemon in it.
Okay, and to your left is a book. And it could be your favorite book. It could be a book that has stayed with you all your life, or a recent discovery. What might we find there?
Wow. Okay. What's that book going to be? I'm really enjoying rereading for the umpteenth time a book called Use Your Brain for a Change and Keep the Change.
Wow, that's a great title, isn't it?
Yeah.
Use your brain for a change and keep the change. Let's see if I can find out who that's by.
That's Richard Bandler, Dr. Richard Bandler. Yeah.
Okay, right. Thank you for that. That's great. Excellent. That sounds like I need to. The one thing I love about doing these interviews is that I'm constantly scribbling down everybody else's recommendations, which is really good. Excellent. Now you're feeling quite pleased with yourself.
Often.
Because you've come from a meeting in the festival hall with a very wealthy London-based family foundation who like to support research and projects in the art that foster international collaboration. Okay. And they've got wind of the work that you do to support creative producers. And they'd like to hire you for a year at great expense to travel the world and create a kind of global league table of nations based on the level of expertise and experience in entertainment and creative production. And you can do some lecturing as you go around as well. There's a TED talk in it. There is a book deal in it. There is a TV show, and there is a global university lecture tour after you've done your study. Okay, no expense spared, first class all the way. Family and friends can come and visit you when you want them to. Does that sound like a gig?
Sounds great. What a year.
What a year already. Now, all you have to do is to decide in what city are you going to start?
Oh, I can do that one actually. That's going to be Sydney.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. You're on the plane. You turned left on the plane.
Yeah.
Okay. The steward brings you two things: a sparkling water with a dash of lemon,
Very good.
and a note from the Family Foundation. And the Family Foundation have asked that they experiment on you a little bit while you're doing this work for them. And the first thing they'd like you to do is to limit your musical listening to one very specific genre.
Really difficult because it changes with my with what I'm doing and my mood. I'm gonna go for jazz. That's gonna be if I have to make one selection, I'm gonna go jazz.
Okay, who might be on that playlist?
Think it's going to be a mix of stuff from the 50s and the 60s. So some John Coltrane. It's going to mix some Art Blakey, and then
a drummer.
of course, very good. It's probably going to be a mix of that kind of 50s, 60s kind of, they call it like hard bop, that kind of stuff.
Okay, nice. We might be able to squeeze in a bit of Miles.
100%, absolutely.
And a bit of Dave Brubeck, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Excellent. Now, you arrive in Sydney, and a group of young creative producers have been assigned to take you under their wing, and they meet you at the airport with your name on a card, probably on an iPad these days. And they whisk you into Sydney, and you've got a harbour view apartment. You've got staff and a car, and they say, right, settle in, relax, unpack. We're coming back later to take you to a dance performance and then out to dinner. Okay. Now, this is where the magic wand and the time machine come in, because I can put on that stage at the Opera House any dance performance you like. Historical, any dancer living or not, any group, any style. What based performance would you like to watch if you could have anything?
You know what? I think, and I know this is not a very cool answer necessarily, but I think it would be some kind of musical theatre in the movies retrospective. So, there'd be some Gene Kelly in there, and there'd be I think it would be that kind of thing. It'd be like an homage to that kind of era and that kind of thing.
Yeah, with Sid Charisse, perhaps.
Yes, I don't know who that is, but I'm sure that would be a big part of it, Mike. Yeah.
Yes, I think she worked with Gene Kelly. Her legs were insured for over $1 million back in the 50s.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's that wonderful dream sequence in one of those movies where it's incredible. And I think we'd probably have to have some Fred Astaire in 100%. There as well. So that's wonderful. Love that. Now, they've taken you out to dinner, and you can choose the national cuisine. What would you choose?
Well, my consistent all-time favorite, and again, maybe not that cool, is pizza. That is consistently a good time for me. Whatever country I'm in, I love a pizza. But actually, if we're in Australia, I think it would have to be some kind of barbecue related, perhaps something outside. I'm gonna go barbecue, because that makes me think of like being at home with my partner's family in Oz. So that's gonna be great.
Lovely. Love that. Now we're going to whisk you off somewhere. Where are we going next?
Where are we going next? It's either Paris or New York next. Let's go New York. Let's do New York.
Okay. It's sport day in New York. They're in with breakdancing in the Olympics. Some sport could be considered performance art. Unless you're Australian. So what sport would you like to watch for a couple of hours in New York? You can have anything.
Oh, badminton is really, there's not that many sports that I can engage with, but badminton is definitely one of them. Yeah. So let's say badminton.
Great choice. I used to play with a friend who was 15 years older than me, and he would play with his wrong hand and still win.
My dad was sorry, go on.
Well, I'm dashing about in my court. He's just standing still doing this.
Yeah. dad was a coach, a badminton coach when I was a kid. And so I have more often been the person on the other side of the net to you, unfortunately, in that particular circumstance. But yeah.
Excellent. I love that. That's great. Now we're going to buzz again. Where are we going?
All right, let's go Paris next.
Paris, right? In Paris, they have a new digitally enhanced art gallery.
Wow.
And you can put on a pair of virtual reality headsets and you can step into the work of a famous artist. It's 3 dimensions. It's 360 degrees. It's utterly immersive. You're in there. It's animated. You get to see what's behind the things we couldn't see in 2 dimensions and walk around. Which famous artist's work would you like to explore in that way?
Ah, you know, and again, might not be a cool answer, but it's Da Vinci because I actually love his. I love the fact that he has all the beauty and everything in the purely sort of expressive art, but then all the technical. I love the workings of things. So if we can stretch the question slightly, I would probably step into some of his more technical work just to see what on earth was going on the inside of that.
Yeah, inventing the helicopter back then.
Right, exactly that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. I love that.
Mm.
Now I'm whisking you back to London, and we're going to go out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and do something different every evening. On Monday, we're going to a historic pop or rock concert.
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday, we're going to a theatre play. On Wednesday, we're going to a musical. Thursday is opera, and Friday is film. And between us, we can decide what we're going to see. So for Monday, I'd like you to let me know if there is a pop, rock, or concert performance that you would dearly love to relive, or one that you could have gone to but didn't and now regret it.
One of my favorite, probably my favorite large venue thing in that genre would be I went to see Sting and Paul Simon together at the O2. So, and I loved that. And if I could have that experience again, I would absolutely do that. Yeah.
That's we can do. My big miss out was Bob Marley. I could have gone to the Rainbow in the late 70s, but didn't in the end. And then he died in 81. And I'm a huge Bob Marley fan. Excellent. I love that. That's great. What about a theatre play? We're back in London, so it could be the Globe.
You know what? I think for a play, I would be guided by whoever I was going with on that one. I'm not sure that I would have I don't really have a strong. I would want to go. I think I'd want to go and see something. I think I'd probably want to go and see something new, as in sort of brand new, because I don't actually do that kind of thing very often. So I would say whatever the newest thing in town was, that's what I want to go and see.
Right, let's find out something. Let's go and I don't think that's right. Bear with me.
That's all right.
Yeah, shows on this month. There we go. London Theatre. It's all musicals. We've got The Mousetrap. That's probably been.
I have actually seen that one. Yeah.
Stranger Things. I wouldn't mind seeing.
Do you know what? That's pretty new. I've heard a lot of people talking about it. I can't believe I haven't already seen it. Let's say it's Stranger Things.
Stranger Things. It is wonderful. Yeah, that's in Charing Cross Road, I think. There, that's great. Excellent. And then, are you an opera fan?
Yeah, it's not something I'm super familiar with. So again, I take guidance on the opera front.
I think if I could go back in time, and this is actually, no, that's ballet, but we can do ballet. I'd love to be in Paris in 1912, I think it was, or 1913, for the first performance of Stravinsky's Rite of Spring, at which there was a riot.
Yes. That
And
was,
I'd love to understand 100 years on why that is now what is it about that piece that caused a riot in 1913, but is now mainstream orchestral repertoire. That would
that is incredible, isn't it?
yeah. That would be my choice. Now, film. We're at the IMAX
Yeah.
and best seats in the house, huge screen, fantastic sound, popcorn on tap. And I'd like you to think, if you can, of a film that you love that you suspect I haven't seen.
Oh, I'd be very surprised, Mark, if there's a film that I really like that you haven't seen. Okay. I mean, it's not the question, but just as my brain goes and does whatever it needs to do, my favorite film from being a kid has always been the first Back to the Future, um, the first Back to the Future film. But I assume you must have seen that, even if you were taking a child to it.
I have seen that, but I would love to see it again with you to enjoy your enjoyment of it.
Yeah, it is. I can say this with a large degree of certainty. It is the film that consistently and in a way that I cannot explain beyond just nostalgia for my own childhood brings it brings me joy, and I can't tell you exactly why it is. I don't know. I mean, the music is a big part of it. I really enjoy the music. But yeah, I'm going to say I can promise you unbridled enthusiasm for Back to the Future.
There we go. That works for me. Um, Interstellar is the movie I watch for the music.
Of course. Yeah, good choice. Yeah.
Yeah, and that would be mine. I love it. Um, Excellent. Now I'm about to let you go on and do this wonderful year experience.
Mm.
Get all of this content in the bag, and then spend the following years being a in-demand speaker on the subject of production capability around the world. But before I do, I'm going to give you a hero lunch, and that is we're still in London, so fusion Italian pizza fusion restaurant.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you can invite one person, and you can invite anyone you like. They can be living or not. They can be famous or not. It could be a family relative, but they will come, and you'll have a nice leisurely 2-hour lunch with them at this wonderful Italian pizza fusion restaurant. Who would you invite?
It's probably a guy called Robert Dilts. And Robert Dilts he's still working very creatively. He was an early kind of co-developer of this neuro-linguistic programming stuff that I do a lot of in my work. And he wrote a series of books called Strategies of Genius, which was basically a sort of process analysis of how a variety of famous creative people, for example, Walt Disney, Da Vinci's in there, I think, but by sort of reviewing things that they'd said, published, or things that had been written consistently about them, investigating what internal process would have been necessary to create the results that we then saw out in the world. And so it would probably be Robert Dilts to have a conversation about, because there's so much information that he puts out in his books and so on. I would love to get his take on what the most important bits are.
Love that. And in a slight twist to this question, who do you think Robert Dilts would invite?
He'd either go someone like Gregory Bateson, who was a teacher of his and kind of involved in the starting of that NLP stuff back in the day, or he might go Aristotle or he might go really kind of out there and might go sort of Aristotle or Jesus perhaps, you know. So I think that's who he would probably. Yeah, I think he would probably go a little bit. He'd probably go a little bit crazier than I did, you know.
Okay, that's great. I love that. Thank you for that. And John, thank you so much for being a good sport and doing our fantasy cultural year. I hope you've enjoyed your fantasy cultural year.
That was great, but I'm going to keep living it after the conversation. That was brilliant.
Fantastic. And thank you so much for being one of our full members. As you know, we're entirely member funded as a community, so it's very much appreciated. And you won't know this, but some of your £10 a month ends up supporting other members in need, which we're doing increasingly as our membership revenue grows. So thank you for that. But thank you so much for joining me today, and no doubt I'll see you soon at one of our many networking events.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Mark. That was great.
Thank you very much, John.